I cook every day, okay, so it does take time, but here's where I save the money. I never eat out. Like, I probably spend less than $100 a year eating out, okay? So I'm not paying any of the middlemen associated in the restaurant industry, for one thing. Also, here's what I do. When I cook, I'm constantly learning stuff, okay? So my MP3 player is so full of books and podcasts that you wouldn't believe it. And I'm going to teach you a couple of things. One, there's this amazing series that you can get on the internet. It's called philosophersnotes.com. And imagine, for instance, somebody who read like Krishnamurti's, one of his books, and then he condensed it down to the juice that's on 6 PDF pages and then put it into a 20-minute podcast. You can throw that on and you can learn a whole lot of wisdom very, very quickly. Okay? Or another fun thing that you can do is you can listen to podcasts. By far and away my favorite podcast is the Sea Realm podcast. And with the Sea Realm podcast, what I do is I listen to it at double speed. So for instance, so this is regular speed.
Over the last 30 years,
now listen to it double speed. So it sounds a little fast, but you'll be shocked. Listen.
If you've read books, watched videos, visited websites, attended workshops, or simply tuned into the zeitgeist by way of casual conversations, you're almost certain to have encountered them. These teachings make some remarkable claims. They insist that each of us creates his or her own reality by means of our attitudes and thoughts, and so we can have whatever reality.
So if you're willing just to teach yourself to listen a little bit faster, for the rest of your life, you can read twice as much as you'd otherwise be able to read. Okay? So like if I spend 45 minutes cooking, I can listen to an hour and a half of podcast material by double speeding it. Or if you're listening to like really, really dense material.
So on the iPod, there's an option to double speed?
Yeah, and you can also half speed.
Is that in iTunes as well?
Unfortunately not. Like I haven't been able to do it for things that aren't audiobooks or podcasts. Like I can't speed up my music.
Right.
I can only speed up podcasts or audiobooks. That's the option comes up. That's an old iPhone, so maybe the new ones are different. But that one is really, really good. And I'm of the opinion that you should never, like I think multitasking is a bad thing, but there are certain things that actually lend themselves well towards multitasking. Okay, so anytime I'm doing something where I know everything that's happening anyway, I might as well be learning at the same time. And so those papers that are behind you, those are like 6 of the books I'm reading right now. And so what will happen is if something is said that's really resourceful, then I'll stop what I'm doing, and I'll come over and I'll make a note about it. And then what I'll do is I will store that information. Like this is all the books. So when I get done with the books, I will have like a binder, and every folder within this binder is like a previous book. So I can go back and review it. So almost like everything that I've learned about over the last 5 years, almost all of it's audio. And almost all of it's been done in this kitchen while cleaning or cooking. So you can turn your kitchen into like an amazing place for learning things.
It really is.
If you appropriately multitask, you know. So
Lifestyle of the future over here.
like I'll tell you one thing that happened to me. It was really interesting. When I got sick, my endocrine system started to fail. Like my adrenal glands weren't working well, and I went through this bizarre change in like attitude. I lost interest in laughing. I lost interest in music, but like what like came in its stead was like this unquenchable thirst for information. And so like I started collecting books and reading books and podcasts and all that sort of thing. And now that I'm doing better, I now like music and I can laugh again. But for a number of years, like I figured out like how to fit the most information in per unit time. And that little system that I have is one. So yeah, it's amazing how important like for your mind, your body is. always remember your mind is sort of, if it's not part of your body, it's definitely related to your body. And certainly your brain is part of your body. So, it's an interesting affair, you know, like, I think one of the most underappreciated things about eating well, everybody thinks about, okay, you know, I'll have a good physique or whatever. Well, it's important to realize that it's so much easier to maintain a resourceful mind if the right genes are being expressed. And how do you get those to be expressed? Well, you eat well. You nourish yourself well. So I'm going to show you some different tricks that I've learned to save money and time. First of all, these things are almost always on sale. You can get organic romaine lettuce for like $2. And I've always found it cheaper to buy the big leaves than to buy sort of the pre-cut stuff. But I'm going to show you the use that I have for the pre-cut stuff. And this would really do well for you and Frank. I'll show you some different ways of like preserving these leaves beyond their lifetime so that you can use them in cooking indefinitely. So for right now though, and here's another thing, like it always says, you know, to wash your food and stuff like that. What I end up doing is I look. And if there's like soil, I'll wash the soil off of it. But otherwise, I've never had a problem with like, you know, like getting sick because my food wasn't clean enough. Think of your ancestors again. They were eating stuff that was filthy by today's standards. Just filthy. So I'm not recommending just going and eating filth. But I wouldn't, you know, I wouldn't like obsess about it.
And there's probably like bacteria maybe kind of that you may want on there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, there's even a practice that the people who are into hookworms do.
Mm-hmm.
It's called pica.
Mm-hmm.
They actually eat soil, like little tablespoons of soil every once in a while because it's supposed to be good for you.
Mm-hmm.
Here's another thing I always do. All the things that I throw away, I cut into little smithereens. Why? Because with home composting, it goes so much faster if you increase the surface area. Just like for the same reason the kefir go faster when they're small. If you have a substrate that is really, really small, then the bacteria can... So this is just all like stuff. And I put this in the freezer every day, so like these things, the cells in these plants are rupturing because I'm putting them in the freezer, so it breaks down much faster when I finally do put it in the compost pile.
So you, like every night you put it in, you leave it out during the day when you're cooking?
Yeah.
Or?
Yeah, that's what I do. So that's just a little trick. I've made the mistake of like throwing whole apples in a worm bin. You know, a year later you still have a pickled apple. Like it's not going to become soil. But if you take the time to break things down yourself using a knife, then you can help the worms along and all the bacteria that you're going to do. So I'm just sort of cutting the stem ends off of these lettuces. And with my, like, greens are by far and away the healthiest thing for you. They're just an amazing food all around. There's, as best I can tell, 3 major kinds of greens, maybe 4. There's things that are in the sunflower family, which is like lettuce. There are things that are in the mustard family, which is like cabbage, broccoli, chard, kale, Brussels sprouts, things like that. And then there are things that are in the beet family, which is chard and beets. And then there's also stuff that's in like the spinach family. And spinach, I can't remember whether spinach is like related to the beets or not. May or may not be. But that's also like a...
I thought spinach was related to mustards. Am I wrong?
I'm not sure that it is. What other... Oh, dandelion greens, those are also sunflowers. So, and what I do with these things is I chop them into little bits, and I start making the base of the salad. Does anyone not like lettuce? I assume it's pretty benign for everybody, right? You know, this is sort of a regular green. I put the greens at the bottom, just as a nice base. And I try to just mix my greens. I try to have some mustard, some sunflower, some beet, maybe some spinach. But I'll show you a really neat trick.
Who else is in the spinach family?
I think it's just spinach.
Oh, okay.
There may be something else. There's several families of greens. The reason I think it's good, like I used to eat balance out my families because if you're allergic to stuff, you don't want to eat too much of one thing. But also, like with the mustards, like if you just did nothing but eat broccoli, there's enough chemicals in the broccoli that they can be goitrogenic. They can compete with iodine in your body for thyroid function. And so one thing I do, just sort of as an insurance against taking, because I eat so many greens, I should be green. So what I do is I just take a little drop of iodine, just one, every day, just to outcompete the goitrogens in the mustard greens. Because you don't want to stop eating mustard greens. They are freaking healthy. Like they're really among the healthiest things out there.
Kale is also.
Kale, collards, or mustard.
Oh, collards.
Yeah. So, but I'll show you this trick that I do. Watch this. So, we're going to start making a dressing. A superfood dressing. Nice. You'll see. By the time this thing is done, you'll be just astonished at just how healthy this dressing is.
Is that a Vitamix?
Yeah. It's a Vitamix Juicer. It's like a blender with a lawnmower engine in it, you know, or something.
A food processor and a blender at the same time.
So we're going to make a really good salad for everybody.
Is it really like 2 horsepower or something?
I don't know what it is, but what's impressive about it is its power, but also it has like a 7-year warranty.
Awesome.
You know, so like they're custom made in Milwaukee. So like if it breaks, you send it to Milwaukee and they send it back to you once they've fixed it. It's
And how old is your Vitamix?
It's maybe, I think this is less than a year. Yeah, I got it a year ago.
Did you get it on sale?
Yeah, I just wait until they're on sale.
When usually?
Yeah, you can get refurbs.
Yeah, they're about half the cost of the new one.
You can get refurbs.
And they're still warranty for 7 years.
And it's on their website?
Yeah, it's on their website.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they'll let you make payments.
Oh, they will.
Yeah,
They'll let you do free payments. I know I'm mad because I just bought a Cuisinart one that's okay, but then I found out about 5 minutes. I'm like, dang it.
Okay, so does anybody not like chard? You want me to avoid chard on anyone? I think this is good.
I love chard.
Have a little bit of this.
You need some, just eat it.
This stuff is good. And the rest, like the stems and stuff, we'll throw in our dressing. So, okay, so this is a good base for a salad. And how many of you don't eat meat? Are there any vegetarians? Okay, so 1, 2, 3. So well, I'm going to leave this out, but I'm going to teach you something. If you ever cook meat, the broth that you cook it in makes a wonderful dressing. So I'll take bits of this and I'll put it in the dressing, normally if it's like, you know, omnivores eating. And the saturated fat in grass-fed beef is so good for